I'm Cameron Nickel, and I played Horatio. So I'm currently getting my master's in fine arts in theater performance and pedagogy at Virginia Commonwealth University in Richmond, Virginia, where I also am this semester working as an adjunct in their business department, teaching a public speaking course taught by theater professionals to business students. So that's fun. And then I also work as a logistics analyst, customer service rep, sort of like catch-all for a chemicals company in Pittsburgh. Still, I do that online now that I'm in Virginia for a lot of the year. I think I was hesitant going in because I'd never done audio drama before, or really anything audio related, but I was surprised by how much sort of my acting for film training sort of played into it. Not always. There were some cases where, you did need to be bigger, but there were a lot of cases where you did have to bring it back in a little bit. That was probably one of the bigger surprises. I think so, definitely, in some part, yeah. I think that while I'm not what I would consider a very physical actor, I'm much more I think myself more like an inside out intellectual type, actor. I think that there are certain things that you don't get to have the luxury of, like being in costume, or even having, for some performances, I've adjusted my posture to a specific state in order to get a desired effect. And I think that sort of taking that away and sort of being here, hunched over a microphone, it's sort of, you have to, and looking at a wall, you have to sort of, there's multiple things going on that you sort of have to separate from the recording and still be as present in it. I think that was one of the larger challenges. In terms of parts of the play, I really actually enjoyed, of course, I enjoyed my time, getting to act with Adam and Horatio and Hamlet's relationship, as that is always a fun time. But I think that the very first couple scenes with the ghost were actually some of the most dynamic, scenes that I was a part of. It was very fun to get to be a part of that, and sort of, again, that the difficulty of something terrifying and wonderful is happening in front of us, but finding my way through that without actually seeing that or being a part of it, the tone of that scene. And it has one of my favorite lines of Horatio's, that Horatio, a piece of him, it's such it sets such a tone for the rest of the play. It's so interesting. The beauty of that line is that it's so complex yet so simple. It's 3 words, and there's a world story. We talked a lot about. I sort of view Horatio as the closest sort of proximity to the audience, in this sort of almost bystander in a way, where he's not directly involved with the matters at hand in Denmark, but he's also very close to Hamlet, and so he's there. And we established, of course, that they are very good friends, if Hamlet can have a such thing as a very good friend. He's the closest to it. But that Horatio doesn't necessarily go along with everything at all times. He's eager to in the beginning, and then as things do get a little crazy, even though he was told they were going to get crazy, especially when Polonius is killed, and the next time that Hamlet talks to Horatio, a lot has happened between Polonius being killed and him being sent off to England. There's a long period of time where they don't talk, or we discussed that Horatio probably is not his biggest fan when they come back. But when they do sort of get back together and almost reconcile, we get some of their most tender moments of friendship almost towards the end of the play. I think, honestly, he's sort of the everyman of the play, almost. And while, we talk about Shakespeare characters always tell the truth, I think Horatio always tells the truth in a very different way. There's a difference between always telling the truth and always being honest. And I think that Horatio is sort of always honest. I think that I don't think he tells a lie in the play. And he's never is really, there's a large discussion, with historians and scholars even, it's is Hamlet actually crazy? Is he acting? Is he tells us he's going to act, but does he get lost in it? At some points, it's possible for the audience to also that thought come across their head. And so that places Hamlet sort of farther away from them almost. That doesn't happen with Horatio, who always sort of is just conveniently there when the audience needs someone to believe in almost, like I think that, I mean, not only is he, quick to trust and quick to, be friendly, but I think that Hamlet has really sort of earned his respect and his, I mean, he's willing to die for him at the end. So I think that though they may have a rocky relationship throughout, towards the end, Hamlet's actual honesty with Horatio even sort of convinces Horatio that, okay, yeah, I am on his side. I'm staying here. This is what I'm going to do. And this is the length that I'm going to go to do it. And he does come out sort of in the right on the end, I suppose. And it takes him a little longer to get there and be like solidly there. But I think that is, once he sees all the stuff going on underneath the top of the plot, with Claudius and everything,
I think that helps.
I think that anyone who has even the slightest interest in not only like Shakespeare, but like theater, and it's very different because it is audio. It's an entirely different experience than going out and seeing a play. And it's not something that you necessarily have to like really hone in on. Like you could even like listen to it like, off to the side while you're sitting doing something else. And I think that just the ease of access is really going to attract a lot of people to this sort of thing. I think that I have two that aren't Horatios that I really love. The first one, I mean, I love the Act 4 soliloquy, the from this day forth my thoughts be bloody, or whatever it is, that whole speech. So because it's cut so often, I love it so much for the side that it shows of Hamlet, but also I think that Hamlet's his little tiny monologue about the flute, and these are my stops, you play me. Though you fret me, you cannot play upon me. Is just such a powerful metaphor, and it's such a like a badass moment. It's so cool. I mean, I'd have to say Adam. I think that his take on Hamlet is just such a breath of fresh air. And this is a play that I've also I love, and I've read multiple times, have multiple editions on my bookshelf. And so there were times where I would be reading along with Adam, and I'd be like, oh, that's new, that's interesting, I've never thought of that before. And so I think that his take on Hamlet is just a breath of fresh air, and that people will really get something different out of it. I'd like to think that I'm, in general, as genuine as Horatio is. I don't know if that's always true, but I'd like to think so. But I think that he also takes some leaps of faith that maybe I would not. I'm not as keen to like, as quickly as he does take. He does have moments of reflection, but there are moments where he does just sort of go for it without reflecting. And I think that I sort of take at least a minute to think about everything. I think he's pretty even, he's eager to believe, but he's also a skeptic in that sense. But also, I think we talked about that at this time, in this time period, he would be in school studying probably philosophy. And there's the line later, there's much more than is dreamt of in your philosophy. So I think that he's sort of, that plays into it a little, where he's a skeptic, absolutely, but he is learned about these things and definitely has some sort of authority on like, okay, I believe you now. Definitely, like, we got into like conspiracy theory mode about whether or not why Horatio was there in Elsinore in the first place, and whether or not Claudius had sort of come to him like he did Rosencrantz and Guildenstern and sort of tried to solicit his help, which he, I supposedly declined. But I think that would have been a really interesting, it's great that we don't know it, I think, but it would have been really interesting to also see that in print.